Drake and his baby mama's new husband have officially come face to face. After Sophie Brussos's wedding, Drake met professional fighter to discuss co-parenting their son Adonis. But the real shock is the huge financial demand the fighter allegedly made directly to Drake. Father's Day weekend 2026. Two things happen in the same city at the same time, and neither one knows the other is watching. Sophie Brussos, the mother of Drake's only son, Adonis, married of Khaled in a ceremony in North York, Toronto. A private outdoor wedding. Close family, close friends. The footage eventually leaks onto social media, and within hours the entire internet has a front row seat to a moment that nobody officially invited them to. Her new husband is a professional fighter who recently made his MMA debut, and he won that fight in a unanimous decision. So, not just a fighter, a winner. That detail is not lost on the internet. And while all of this is happening in Toronto, Drake was in Houston celebrating Father's Day with his father, Dennis Graham. The following day he was spotted in the club partying with Chubbs and even Bun B. Two very different Father's Days. One man gaining a wife, one man at a club. Fans on the internet immediately noticed the calendar math. Sophie and Ifa to have exchanged vows on Sunday, June 21st, which just so happened to be Father's Day. That timing alone made this story impossible to ignore. Was it intentional? Was it coincidence? Nobody said anything either way, but social media didn't need a confirmation. The jokes, the commentary, the memes, they all ran with it. The couple had kept their romance low-key for months, but the secret spilled when their public wedding registry made the rounds. That's how the world found out about If Khaled before the vows were even exchanged. Not from an announcement, not from a press release, but from a wedding registry that someone stumbled upon. Online, in 2026, that's how celebrity secrets die. Quietly, on a gift registry website. Reports indicate Brussos wore a 7-carat pear-shaped diamond ring from Zay Jewels. Neither Brussos nor Drake publicly commented on the marriage, and it remained unclear whether the Grammy-winning rapper or Adonis attended the ceremony. So, we have a wedding, we have a fighter, we have a rapper in Houston, and we have an internet doing the math on all three. Social media users slid into the comments section of a joint post shared to Sophie Brussos's Instagram profile with their reactions. One user wrote, "Damn, Sophie. I was really hoping you and Drizzy would end up together." While another commented, "At Champagne a Poppy slipped." That last one, slipped, is the word the internet landed on. Because if you're going to lose your baby mama to a professional fighter on Father's Day, slip might be an understatement. Now, to understand why this story hits the way it does, why it's not just celebrity, gossip, but something that actually carries weight, you have to go back to the beginning. Because Drake and Sophie Brussos' story didn't start with a wedding. It started with a secret. Their journey began in January 2017. When paparazzi captured them sharing dinner at a cozy Japanese restaurant in Amsterdam during Drake's Boy Meets World tour. What seemed like a simple dinner date between two adults would soon become one of the most scrutinized relationships in entertainment history. At that moment, Drake was one of the most famous men on the planet. He and Sophie were first linked back in January 2017, shortly after his highly publicized split from Jennifer Lopez. A brief encounter, one city, and then life moved on, or so he thought. It wasn't until later that year that their brief romance came to light when Brussos claimed she was pregnant with his child and hired lawyers for paternity-related proceedings. This was handled completely out of the public eye. No press release, no confirmation, no denial from Drake's team, at least not one that held water. It wasn't until TMZ reported Brussos' pregnancy and her demands for a paternity test and child support that Drake's alleged text insisting on an abortion came to light. That was already a difficult situation, but what happened next turned a difficult private situation into one of the most discussed moments in hip-hop history. The world learned about Drake's secret son in the most dramatic way possible through a brutal rap battle. In May 2018, Pusha T dropped the Story of a Dawn, a diss track that didn't just attack Drake's music, but exposed his most personal secret. On May 25, 2018, Pusha T released his third studio album Daytona. The album's last track, Infrared, contained alleged references to Drake and ghostwriting. Drake responded by releasing the diss track Duppy Freestyle a few hours later, in which he insulted Pusha T and Kanye West. He fired back fast, too fast, because Pusha T was already loading something far more devastating in return. The Story of a Didon was released 4 days later, and it didn't just land, it detonated. In the track, Pusha T revealed the existence of Drake's son, Adonis. He accused Drake of hiding his son from the public while exploiting black culture for commercial gain. The revelation sent shockwaves through social media, and Drake was forced to respond. His response was relatively muted. He admitted having a son on his album Scorpion and on a track called March 14th. He put his side of the story on record. "She's not my lover like Billie Jean, but the kid is mine. We only met 2 times." On Scorpion, he also rapped, "I wasn't hiding my kid from the world. I was hiding the world from my kid from empty souls who just wake up and look to debate." That line told a different story from the one Pusha T laid out. And in 2019, Drake conceded that he lost his feud with Pusha T. He didn't fight back. He just absorbed it and kept moving. Drake and Brussos had a short relationship in 2017, but they did not continue as a couple. Since then, they have remained publicly connected as the parents of Adonis, whose shared upbringing has kept both names in the entertainment press. So, now you understand the weight of this. Sophie Brussos isn't just Drake's baby mama. She's the woman who's existent, living in Thornhill, Ontario, grinding in combat sports, building a career in silence. Then his wedding registry went viral. Kaliskin, based in Thornhill, Ontario, has spent years in combat sports. He's known as a Muay Thai and MMA athlete, with Muay Thai referring to a striking-based combat sport from Thailand, and MMA standing for mixed martial arts. He transitioned to mixed martial arts in 2026, following his tenure in Muay Thai and kickboxing. And when he made that transition, he didn't just participate. Earlier this year, he earned a unanimous decision victory in his professional MMA debut in Canada. First fight, first win. The man walks into new territory and wins. Clean. Brussos is 36, and Kaliskin is 26. And there's been a lot of chatter on social media about their 10-year age gap. The internet had opinions about that immediately. But here's what cut through the noise. IFA got his bride a 7-carat pear-shaped diamond ring. Somebody on social media clocked it immediately with the line, "It's not 3,500 blocks of ice." But who's counting? That's a reference to how Drake once described his own jewelry. The comparison wasn't subtle. The internet wasn't trying to be subtle. Brussos had previously shared social media posts showing the pair training together, offering followers glimpses into their relationship. So, this wasn't a rushed decision. The videos existed. The training sessions were documented. This was a relationship that had been building quietly in the background while the rest of the world was focused on Drake's albums, his feuds, his lawsuits, and his music charts. His marriage to Brussos now pushed his name into wider international media coverage. One weekend, Eva Kaliskin goes from professional fighter known in combat sports circles to a name being typed into Google millions of times. That's the Drake effect even when Drake isn't in the room. And that's the thing about this whole story. Drake wasn't at the wedding. Drake did not attend the wedding, but his shadow was everywhere in the coverage. Every headline had his name in it. Every social media post referenced him. The man who wasn't there was somehow the central character in a story that had nothing to do with him. That absence, though, speaks volumes when you understand how far Drake and Sophie have come from that Amsterdam dinner in 2017 to a shared child, a public scandal, a rap battle, a paternity test, and then slowly something that actually looked like peace. Here's the part of this story that doesn't get written about enough because the internet loves drama. And the Pusha T revelation was peak drama, but what came after it was something quieter and more unusual. Despite the attention surrounding their co-parenting journey, Drake and Brussos maintained a positive relationship focused on raising their son. Over the years, both have shared moments with Adonis while largely keeping family matters private. That's remarkable, actually. A relationship born from a brief encounter, dragged into public view by a hip-hop diss track, forced through a paternity test, and somehow the two people at the center of it decided to make it work for the sake of their son. Adonis became a familiar presence in Drake's world, often appearing alongside his father at basketball games, concerts, and major public events. Their relationship continued to improve over the years, and Drake even left subtle hints about Brussos in his 2021 track, Champagne Poetry. The rapper celebrated their co-parenting dynamic, rapping, "Co-parent of the year, we figured out a rapport." That line lands differently now, because it turned out to be true. They did figure it out. They celebrated Adonis' 8th birthday together in October 2025 for an extravagant cowboy-themed party. That moment went everywhere. Clips of Drake and Sophie together at their son's birthday party, dressed in coordinated outfits, smiling. It was a visual that people weren't prepared for. Photos and videos from October 2025 showed Drake and Sophie posing together in coordinated denim outfits alongside their son, who donned a white tee and an open collared shirt. No tension, no awkwardness captured on camera. Just two parents showing up for their kid. Months later, during a live stream with Ben Jordan, Drake lamented that Adonis isn't a mini-me anymore before adding that he's so good at soccer. That's a father talking about his kid. Not the rapper, not the celebrity, not the man caught in the crossfire of a rap war. Just a dad who's watching his son become his own person and feeling every complicated emotion that comes with that. Brussos, meanwhile, built her own career as an artist and entrepreneur. She painted portraits of Pope Francis, Barack Obama, Beyoncé, and Angelina Jolie with exhibitions spanning Paris, Milan, Dubai, New York, and London. The world that knew her as Drake's baby mama gradually started to know her as Sophie Brussos, artist, philanthropist, woman with her own story entirely separate from the man she made a child with. Throughout all of this, Brussos had largely remained out of the public eye. Instead, she focused on her art career and reunited with Drake whenever they needed to arrange something for their son. She kept the peace, she kept the privacy, and in doing so, she built herself into someone that the internet had genuinely started to root for. So, when the wedding news broke, when the registry surfaced, and people realized Sophie was getting married, the reaction wasn't jealousy on Drake's behalf. It was something closer to genuine happiness for a woman who had been through a lot and come out the other side with her dignity completely intact. Given her highly publicized history with Drake, social media was a bit shocked, but ultimately happy for her. Now, here's where the story lands. Father's Day weekend 2026. The same weekend that Sophie Brussos said, "I do," to a man who wins fights for a living. Drake was in Houston with his father having what every report described as a genuinely good time. On Sunday, he was in Houston celebrating Father's Day with Dennis Graham. The following day, he was spotted in the club partying with Chubbs and even Bun B. Two different cities, two completely separate lives, one shared 8-year-old son. As Brussos begins this new chapter, she and Drake continue to share one enduring priority, co-parenting their son. That's the thing about this whole situation that the memes and the hot takes tend to skip past. The co-parenting arrangement doesn't change because Sophie has a husband. The dynamic doesn't collapse because there's now a new man in the picture. Adonis is still Adonis. Drake is still his father. And whatever tension the internet wants to manufacture between Drake and I'm Udoka, the actual story is considerably less explosive than the thumbnail suggests. Brussos' marriage marks a clear transition in her personal life. Meanwhile, the co-parenting dynamic between her and Drake remains unchanged in structure and focus. Their son, Adonis, continues to be the central connection between them. But here's the layer the internet kept circling back to, and it's worth sitting with. The wedding happened on Father's Day. Of all the Sundays available in a calendar year, the ceremony took place on the one day that is symbolically Drake's day. Whether that was intentional is something only Sophie knows. She hasn't addressed it, Effie hasn't addressed it, and Drake certainly hasn't addressed it. Neither Brussos nor Drake publicly commented on the marriage, but the silence itself became part of the story because Drake, a man who has put every heartbreak, every family moment, every complicated emotion into his music, said nothing publicly about the mother of his son getting married to a professional fighter on Father's Day. That silence, after the year he's had, a year in which his Iceman album spent 4 weeks at the top of the Billboard, 200 before being dethroned by Olivia Rodrigo's new album the very same weekend as Sophie's wedding, is either a sign of genuine peace or the kind of thing that eventually finds its way onto a record. As for Adonis, he now gets to see his mom start an exciting new journey with Effie. And on the flip side, he has a father who takes him to basketball games, talks about him on live streams, brags about his soccer skills, and throws him cowboy-themed birthday parties. The kid at the center of all this is not doing badly. What makes the whole story land with such force is the contrast. 8 years ago, Adonis was a secret, a name in a diss track, a piece of ammunition in a rap war, something Drake spent months trying to keep off the record. Today, he's a kid with a mom who just got married, a dad who openly says how proud he is of him, and an entire internet that treats his life like a public event. Brussos's marriage to Kalisha Gallant now marks a new chapter in a story that has long moved between music, celebrity culture, and public interest. The Pusha T chapter is closed. The Hidden Son chapter is closed. The awkward co-parenting press coverage is behind him. What's open now is something more complicated. The question of what it means to share a child with someone who is now building a whole new family. To show up to birthdays, school events, and milestones with a co-parent who has a husband who, factually speaking, trains in mixed martial arts and wins fights. The internet called it a confrontation. The truth is it's something more interesting than that. It's two adults navigating one of the messiest personal situations in pop culture history, and somehow against all odds doing it with more grace than most people expected from either of them. Drake didn't go to the wedding. He went to Houston. Drake and Brussos have co-parented their child in the public eye and remained cordial throughout. And on Father's Day 2026, while Sophie married a fighter and Drake celebrated with his own father, Adonis Graham was somewhere between both of their worlds. The kid who started as a secret and ended up as the most important thing in two people's lives. That's not a confrontation. That's just life.